morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Renew Podcast. I am your host, Kristen Andre, and back with us again this week, we have my friend Shelby Trick. She joined us last week to talk about imposter syndrome, and we've got another interesting topic this week because we're going to talk about negativity and how negativity sells, and that's what people seem to be paying attention to because, I don't know about you, I'm over it. Like, I'm really over all the things with negativity.
Way over it.
But that's what people are flocking to. I mean, it's really like, I don't know if it's because negative messages make people feel better about themselves or it's like a train wreck we just don't want to turn away. But everything in our world, from a media standpoint, has gone negative.
I just think negativity is easier to believe. I mean, isn't it true in our personal lives? Like, you can get 100 compliments and then one person says, something bad and you're like, whoa.
It's true. It sticks with you more.
Negative. I don't know. And then that's all we're seeing. It's a perversive layer, especially in media. And I think that it's drama. It's a dramatization. It's salacious. So that's what sells, and it's what we're hearing, and it's what we're consuming. And as consumers of that information, we just continue to feed the beast that is. I know I made a conscious choice 25 years ago to not participate.
That's a long time.
Media.
Media. Okay, so tell me about that. So
media.
what do you mean by not participate in media?
The news.
Okay.
Like watching the news.
I don't watch the news either.
Consuming it. Because you and I talk a lot about energy.
Yep.
In our, friendship and in our life. And one of the things, so for me, if I am consuming this in a visual format or even listening to it, I'm also consuming how they're sharing it. And I'm sharing in the energy that they're sharing it. I mean, gone are the days of Walter Cronkite, just giving us the news and us interpreting it for ourselves. Did you
post, or somebody posted that recently that, it may not have been you. Somebody posted that it was about Cronkite. When he used to do the news, and this was back when we were younger, he would read the news. There was no judgment. There was no opinion. It was literally like, this happened. And everybody could take what happened and could form their own opinion about what they feel about what happened.
Yeah.
He didn't give judgment. He didn't tell you to think one way or the other. But now the news is delivered.
Given information.
You were given information. But now the news is delivered with an information bias.
Now you're given entertainment.
Correct.
And you and I have talked a little bit about this, but a good dear friend of mine, Michelle Mitchell, she has and I asked if it was okay if I talked about this.
I know, we've got to plug it.
I got permission. She has a podcast called Cocktail Conversations.
Yep.
Literally like 15, 20 minute, it's the amount of time that would be in a cocktail conversation at a cocktail party. And she has she's chewing on this. And she calls it the anger industrial complex. We met with a group of people in a foreign location to, all kind of meet a meeting of minds to talk about this because it has become such a problem. It's feeding a lot of different beasts that we're all having challenges with.
Yep.
And I know for all of us that came away from that conversation, where we all met together in Mexico and did this work, what was the next step? So it's interesting we're having this conversation because it feels like a little bit of a next step from that. Like, what was the call to action? And it's just, I think, pebbles in the river creating ripples of positivity. And I think we're giving a little bit of a voice to the negativity, having the conversation, but you have to talk about the elephant in the room to try and overcome it. But that was when I discarded, I started reading the media myself, or reading the news. I shouldn't say reading the media, reading the news as much as I could. Like, I think sometimes my husband hides his news habit. Like, that's like some husbands hide.
Some people hide drinking.
He
Brian's hiding the news.
He wakes up early and watches the news because he knows because it's scary. Okay, so here's the scary thing to me, and maybe I'm a reactive person, but I can listen to the news for 5 minutes, and I am level 10, volume up, angry, talking about it for 30 minutes, and then he's like, "You done?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, now
because you feed off the energy.
Now I'm crazy. Because you remember my thing with you and I is meet with somebody every day in the morning, first thing, that feeds like your soul.
Well, and you've talked about that because I got that from you, and I talked about it. I think I wrote about it in the book last year. Was the Energizer? Is one person on your calendar, and you taught me this. One person on your calendar each week or day that is that energizes you in a good way. Yeah. Because we get hit and bombarded with all this negativity, and I do get that it sells, but y'all, it sells because we're buying it.
Yeah.
Like people are buying it.
Well, Michelle is very adamant in the fact that this, there is news being told. This isn't like, I'm not trying to put words in Michelle's mouth, that there still is newsworthy news, but what we're buying is entertainment.
Yes.
That it used to be, families ran these news houses and all these things, and now it's, private equity corporations that are running it, and they need to make money.
Yeah.
And that's what sells. I mean, reality TV. I'm addicted.
Are you?
Are
you addicted to reality TV?
I wish I was. Only
because that's negative too.
A couple of things.
That
maybe.
You're a Bachelor person, aren't you?
Will plead the fifth.
But that's negativity, right? All right. I don't, and I've said this on here before, and I know people laugh when I don't watch TV. And
it's my guilty pleasure.
Matt and
I don't watch a lot of it.
Matt and I had this conversation when he's done some shows, and he's like, he doesn't watch TV either. And I'm like, you host 2 TV shows. He's like, I don't have cable. Like, neither of us watch TV. And
I'll binge watch programs, but I don't.
I binge watch things, but I tend to binge watch things that feel good. Like I'm a Hallmark Channel person all day long. There is no negativity on the Hallmark Channel. The handyman is gorgeous. Your car breaks down, which would normally be negative, but no. The handyman from small town New England is there to fix your car, and you fall in love.
But there's tension. No, will they get together?
Yeah, they're going to get together. Every movie they get together. But that's why I like it, because there's no negativity. There's, there's always the scene where the person misheard something, but then you realize they misheard it and they're going to get back together at the end.
Yeah, we've never had that happen.
That's really it, right? No kidding. But that's really it. But negativity, I feel like we've entered this vicious cycle, and by the cycle I mean the toilet bowl swirling that is just going down the drain. Mm-hmm. And until we decide and make a conscious choice to reverse that, it's going to continue going down the drain. Like for me, I purposefully don't do the negative. And it's, we talked about that with The Social Dilemma, with that movie. The algorithms work with whatever you hover over, whatever you click on, whatever you dive into is what it's going to show you more of. Mm-hmm. So if you're falling prey to the clickbait that gets you looking at all the negative stuff, you're going to be fed
isn't that true? Isn't that true in life though? What you feed is what you grow.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I mean, you and I we work hard to be intentional in our friendships and our inner circles and the people the energy we invite in. Yeah. And even in the wider sphere, when you're feeding that, then that's what's going to grow. And I think the unfortunate thing, I think it's been happening since the dawn of time. I don't know that we're super unique. Yeah. But we do have these media outlets that are now feeding it. And again, I'm not trying to make all media sound bad, but that are feeding that, and it's pitting sides against each other, which is unfortunate, because I know when I have conversations with friends that maybe don't identify with the same things I do, we still have things in common. And, even on that trip, someone that has become someone I admire, someone that I met, she's someone I admire. We couldn't be more opposite. And it's funny because if on any other given day, if we had just run across each other, we probably wouldn't have talked, because we probably could have quickly identified we don't agree on a lot of the higher issues. But then we had so many things in common.
And I think that's the case with most people. And you guys know, I mean, those of you guys that listen in a lot, you guys know I purposefully I try not to talk about very controversial issues, because I am extremely educated on my beliefs. Like, I'm not the one like, oh, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon. Like, I research and I do, but I also have friends who are extremely educated and have the opposite belief, whether it has to do with politics or everything with COVID or anything like that. I purposefully don't say things on air because I know what's right works for me and why I believe what I believe. And I have friends that are the opposite, and they're great friends of mine. We just don't agree on one particular thing. I've got a child who doesn't like chocolate. I don't know what that's about, but I'm not going to judge her for it.
Well,
you're judging her for it.
I'm judging her for it.
I know. But it's, all of us have, and whether it's something as trivial as chocolate or something as big as politics or healthcare or things like that, I have to trust that people are educated. Now, some of y'all are not educated enough to make your own decisions, but I digress. But for most people, I trust that they're educated to make their own decisions, and it's the negative. I'm not going to feed into the negativity of just, telling them what they're doing wrong.
One of the aspects of this negativity beast that is being fed, or that is feeding us in some cases, and I wonder how much this affects your ability in this platform to talk, is that now with a couple clicks, people are canceled.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's this, cancel culture.
Well, let's talk about that, because I want to do a full episode on cancel culture, because I mean, I'll be the first, because this is negativity.
I don't want to be canceled.
Here's the thing. Y'all want to cancel me? Cancel me. I don't care if I have 20 people listening, if they're my people. Because here's the thing. I mean, because cancel culture does feed into negativity.
That makes a certain, I don't know who it is, but that makes a certain bubble of people feel very powerful.
But being able to cancel things?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You guys, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If you don't believe in it, don't support it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But there are going to be people that are on the opposite. That's what... I talk about faith on here a lot. I'm a strong Christian faith, and I believe that God made each of us different and put us here with our own set of gifts. And if y'all are mad about somebody's gifts or somebody's beliefs, that's on you, because that may just be how they are.
Yeah.
And I mean, are some people just pains in the butt and total assholes? Yes, they are. But you know what? Love them anyway.
Yeah.
Your job isn't to judge them. Your job is to love them.
Yeah.
You don't have to love them day to day. You don't have to allow them into your little inner circle. But you don't have to cancel them.
No. Well, you also don't have to be vicious either.
Well, that's the thing. Is I think the negativity, part of the negativity that sells, I will say this, and this is part of my challenge with news and media and TV, is people are vicious. Like, one of the things I've always said about me is, I mean, I can be mean for sure. I can definitely be mean, but there's nothing I would say about someone that I would not say directly to them. So if I have a negative opinion about somebody, I would tell that person directly to them. Like, there's nothing I'm going to say behind somebody's back I wouldn't say to them.
Well, I always laugh. I mean, talking about reality TV and that kind of like forum, like, I'd be the villain. Like, I'm the person that's easily taken out of context, blunt. I kind of say things that are like, colorful, because I think so. I think I'm funny.
You are funny, but you are very blunt.
But sometimes I hit nerves, and I don't realize I've hit them, and so that's why I always say my edit would be the villain, because I think I say things and that it can be easily.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I'm not on a reality TV show, so it's good.
Maybe you should be. I would be terrible on a reality TV show. I'd be boring. And I don't try to be overly politically correct. I just try not to piss people off. Yeah. I mean, it's really what it is. Because I really try to look at things from all vantage points. And I try to figure out, where is this person coming from in their comments or anything. The part with negativity that gets me is, what's selling is that people go straight for the negative.
I think it's jugular.
Straight at the jugular. Yeah, exactly. They don't even look for the positive. They don't look for, where could this person be coming from? Why is it this person has this opinion? Yeah. Because sometimes if you really sit back and think, they probably think this because of that. It's...
Well, you could ask a question rather than go on the attack and easily figure it out.
Yeah.
And say, blah, blah, blah. You might know the answer.
Yep.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you're like, oh, no, that person's just being an ass. But
it's easier but that makes more sense. It doesn't sell.
No.
So, I mean, how do we switch the narrative where we are talking about more good stuff and not immediately going to these things with everything being negative? Because that is what's selling right now. And I worry about it. I worry about it from, I was at, my youngest is 12. She had some girlfriends over for her birthday a few months ago, and they were at the table. We'd gotten pizza. They were sitting at the table eating, and I could hear the conversation. And these are 12-year-old girls that are like, did you see so-and-so at school? And I'm like, stop right now. Because I was having to kibosh the conversation, because instead of they were immediately going to, and they weren't being, it was 12-year-old girl stuff. It wasn't really mean, but I could see it going towards the negative. And I'm like, let's just only say good things about people. And not that I'm living in this Pollyanna rainbows and unicorns world, which I think would be fun to live in.
I would love a unicorn.
I know. Wouldn't you love a unicorn? I would too. I mean, it'd be fun to live there, but like, there is the good with the bad. Like, I get that there's the good with the bad. So I'm not trying to be all positive all the time. But right now, we're all negative.
Well, because nothing
positive is going on.
You can be real without being negative. And I think, but do you think there's an aspect of that, though? Because like, some people take direct communication as harsh, negative, and things like that. Do you think that's separate from like the pervasiveness of negativity that we see just in the world right now?
Yep.
Like, do you also think there's an aspect of just not being able to handle direct communication that's kind of bubbling up through?
I think for a lot of people there is. Like I'm fiercely direct in my communication. My children will attest to that, but here's the way I look at it is I don't have much of a filter. I've said that before, the thing that words are supposed to pass through before they come out of your life.
It still comes out.
Mine
so
is
what
broken.
Is that?
My filter's broken. It's, but here's the thing. You have to look at the purpose behind it. If you're giving feedback, the intent behind it, if you're giving feedback just to be cruel, then you're probably an ass. And let's admit it. I'm not, when I give feedback, and it's, a lot of it's negative. I mean, I have to give negative comments or negative feedback to people that I work with or that clients of mine or my children or family or friends or whatever.
But is that negative feedback or being critical of and trying to help them
There's
grow?
a different, it's not being critical. You have to look at the intent. My intent is to help somebody. And if I'm not
critiquing can help grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have to look at where somebody's coming from. If there's pointing out something negative, like one of the phrases we've been using with my youngest is, we'll say, is it necessary, is it truthful, and is it helpful? So that's what it is. Like, is it truthful is the first thing, is what you're saying true?
Yeah.
Is it helpful? Is it something that will help them grow? Is it necessary? And that's what we were saying, so sometimes like, hey, Mom, you could have phrased that a little better, or it hurt my feelings when you said this. Yes, truthful, helpful, necessary. If you say, Mom, those pants look really awful on you, truthful, probably. Helpful, not really, because we're already in the car and I can't go change. Necessary, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I was trying to run things through that filter with myself, and I taught that to my kids. It became a meme in my house because they're like, is it truthful? Is it not? I'm like, just stop it. But we don't think through those layers.
Yeah.
We just kind of spurt things out. And the same thing with negativity. And I'll see it, I don't like talking politics on here because I am politically like all over the board. But I will say it because I've seen this on both sides. People just lash out and they are negative and they call people names and they do whatever. And I do not care who the president is. I will say this, at any given year, they are the president. They should command some respect. Quit being disrespectful. So a lot of the negativity and the feedback goes back to the fact that people are just outright disrespectful. Like,
well,
they
and
were
they're
disrespectful.
and so many people are making assumptions. I mean, if you and they're negative assumptions, it's like
disrespect's negative.
Whatever the bucket is, whether it's political, whether it's religion, whatever it is, and those are very strong identifying, things for people. But, whatever you think falls in a specific bucket, and then you name anybody that says they are that, then they must embody all those things. And I've just found that to be patently untrue.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was where, my new friend and I, Kat, when we got to talking, we both admitted, we wouldn't have thought we would have had a lot in common. It's not because I thought she was evil or she thought I was evil. It wasn't, she wasn't putting me in those kind of buckets. But some people do.
Well, and that's the thing is and that's part of the negativity bias that's out there is we see people as whatever labels we have put on them, and we automatically assign them to a bucket, and it's all the negative stuff.
Because it helps us understand the world. Do you think? Like, are those like are those the what is that where to protect yourself, like primitive? Things.
The fight or flight thing?
I don't know. So, like, you put these markers up, like, they're this, avoid. But you're missing out on a rich fabric of experiences.
You're definitely, because if your entire population and your entire thing that you're working with and all the people in your circle are exactly like you, if you've got a homogenous group, you're never going to learn. You're never going to experience things. Mm-hmm. You're never going to figure out how you can grow.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way to do it. And you're going to exist in a world that isn't real.
No.
You're going to be in your own little bubble. I mean, one thing I'll say about our friend group is I have an extremely diverse friend group, like a very, very diverse friend group. And cultures, ethnicities, gender, everything. It's
jobs,
where we were raised, jobs, everything. And it does help you learn. We are not all alike. Like, my closest friends and I, a lot of us are really different from one another, but I think what helps is there's a healthy respect for each other's opinion. Mm-hmm. And we understand, like, okay, maybe Shelby thinks this because she was raised this way, or, so-and-so thinks this because they grew up here. And you have an understanding of where people came from.
Yeah.
And that's where, with the negativity that I'm seeing in the media, is there's a blatant disregard for why people think the way they do. And there's also a blatant disrespect for anyone that thinks differently. And that's what I think is bothering me about the media and the bias. And I realize we are doing media right now.
Yeah.
But I purposely am trying to make people aware, because we need to be aware of this.
Yeah. Well, I think in our tribe, in our wide circle of people, I think that we all gravitate towards each other because we are seeking out personal improvement. We're seeking out personal empowerment. We're trying to, in our own little ways, trying to figure out how to make the world a better place. But I think when you're looking at, and sometimes I sit here and think, well, what a privileged place to sit in, that these are the things that I'm thinking about. Yeah. It's not survival. It's not fighting. It's not fighting for my place in the world, even though I still, I feel like I fight for my place in the world a little bit. But, I'm sitting on this perch, and these are the things that I'm struggling with. So it's also giving some grace to those who, are struggling with different things and who are, just fighting for their very existence. And there's there's negativity thrown at that too. And it's like, well, you should, or you should, or you should. And I don't know. I have a friend who says, shouldn't even be a part of your, vocabulary.
Well, because we don't know. Here's the real deal. We don't know what people should do because we're not in their shoes.
Yeah.
We can't possibly know. Like, I'm pretty public and I put things out there, but there's a very small handful of people that know all my stuff.
Yeah.
And that's purposeful. And it's very purposeful, because I don't want people telling me what I should do. I'll listen to the shoulds from my little circle, but it's tiny. That's tiny. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't listen to shoulds from anybody else. Yeah. So we'll be shitting all over ourselves. But it's, it's really just trying to look at this. And that's kind of where the message I want to get out is, we control what we take in. I purposefully don't listen to the shoulds from
anybody. We also control what we put out.
We do. I know.
Because I think for me, it's more what's coming at us. And so that's something else, another entity, another person putting that out there. So I can control what I take in, but sometimes I can't. My eyes.
Right.
But
it's burning my eyes. But it's true. But
we have to be careful what we put out.
But it's something
I'm guilty of sometimes not putting out, rainbows and sunshine. We all get frustrated.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we all do.
Return your damn shopping cart. You want to see me fly off
the
handle?
If you want to see Shelby go negative real quick, leave your shopping cart in the middle of a parking lot.
Just leave it beside
But
your car.
I did hear a thing that successful people, like accomplished people, all return their shopping. I don't know why they did a study on this.
I must be very accomplished,
because I always take my.
But yeah, I mean, so I'm not sitting here trying to say, and I don't think you are either, that we don't have any negative bones in our body, and that we don't sometimes have our moments. But I also think it's not what we consciously put out into the world.
Correct.
But I find myself having to check myself and think about.
You've got to. I mean, nothing is great all the time. If it is, you're lying to yourself, or you're on some medications. You're gonna need to let me know what they are.
Yeah. But it's like Ghostbusters, though, right? It's the river of slime beneath New York. I mean, and if negativity is going to feed it, then negativity is what's going to make it bubble over. And I mean, where's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man when you need him?
I'm telling you, he needs to come out. But the opportunity we have is what we choose to consume. We know it's going to be there. But again, I've had this discussion with people online, because I do purposefully look for the positive. That's what's fed to me because of the algorithms. I mean, the world is kind of a big algorithm right now. The more you buy into something or feed into something or absorb something, the more of it's going to be presented to you. You're going to find what you look for. And I think we've gotten, in this reality TV world and in this negativity bias culture, we've gotten where we just say good, bad, whatever. And not to go too deep into cancel culture, because I think we should do a whole episode on that, is we get where it's negative, we don't like it, it is not what we want, we're going to cancel it. Maybe we should do an episode on that, because I cancel culture pisses me off to no end. And there's not a lot of things that piss me off, but that pisses me off. That's a negative episode. We're going to have to wait on that one.
Yeah, it's
frustrating. But it's true. Like, we get this negativity towards things, and we're just like, we just let it eat us up. I mean, I know people that are pissed off because they watch the news, or they're pissed off because they heard something on TV.
If I watch the news, I get pissed off. I mean, we just talked about that earlier. But, it's interesting to me. Now I forgot what was interesting to me. Oh, that's a thing.
It wasn't. See, hopefully it wasn't anything negative.
It shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Well, I think, okay, what I was going to say was interesting to me. You know, I cleaned up my Facebook feed. You know, the unfollow button was my friend, and or like the silence them for 30 days. And it was funny because after about 30 days, there'd be like this ripple effect in my Facebook feed. And I'm like, oh, what's happening? I'm like, oh, you guys need to go back down for a nap. You're still showing your butts.
Right.
And then it was interesting to me when I last year became part of the Best Self community. Thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Like overnight, my Facebook feed became unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
Because that's who so many of the people in that community are. They are putting good out into the world. They are doing good things. They have hard times. They have bad days.
Yep.
They get frustrated. But the majority of what they are putting out into the world is good. And it was just, it was an exhale moment.
And you've got to find those people. And what Shelby's talking about is
just follow Lisa Washington if you want to exhale.
Lisa's great. We've had Lisa on the show before. She's awesome. But we
just makes you breathe.
Yeah, what she's talking about is there's a magazine here in Atlanta, Best Self Atlanta, which is a great publication, and every year they do an over 40 issue, and they pick their top 10 Atlantans, and I was blessed enough to be named one of them in 2019. And then I had nominated Shelby, and Shelby made the list last year. And so it's a great little community, but they do pick their top 10 based on career accomplishments, taking care of yourself, and philanthropy. Yeah. So all of us that were named to this list and are part of this community, and this happens every year. They're on the 11th year now. And so it's growing every year. But since all of us naturally kind of give back, we do tend to gravitate more toward, and it's a breath of fresh air. You get around these people, and it's no pettiness, it's no negative. I mean, we all have bad stuff happen to us, but they're talking about real stuff. They're talking about how they're helping people, and they're talking about fun stuff. And, people tease me now because this is my picture taking group. A lot of my friends call it your picture taking friends, because there are a lot of media events that we do. And so, but we have a blast, and it really is, it's sunshine and unicorn, because people are talking about good things, and they certainly, knowing a lot of people in the group, they have had some traumatic things.
I was about to say, like a lot of it has been born out of flames. Yes. I mean, a lot of it has been just a rebirth.
Well, in a way. Maybe that's where we need to look at, because I'm not saying avoid the negativity. I'm just saying don't live there. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine.
Well, don't use that as your gun, right?
Right.
That's not the rifle shot.
Right. I had this conversation with a friend of mine who was going through a divorce, and it was just painful, and it was taking a long time. And I was telling, and he was just really down and depressed about it. And I kept saying, I said, I get it. You're going through some crap. I just don't want you to live there.
Yeah.
So the negativity is going to hit us all, but it's our choice whether or not we live there.
Yeah.
And so our opportunity is to pack our bags.
Yeah.
And move to a different place.
I think we are the ripple effect, and we have to own our own voices and our own communication and our own output.
Yeah.
But I wish I had an answer for the input, like how to change that. I mean, you can not listen to it, but there are still plenty of people that are, and that's why it keeps selling.
I think the answer to the input is what you're outputting. Because you're going to attract like people. You really are. So if you're a negative Nilly all the time, and I have some that I've, just like you, I did the Facebook hide, and I've got a couple people who are friends of mine, but they're so negative online that I had to hide their feed.
Always.
That I can't. And I don't like
and sometimes
doing
they're not negative in real life. I don't know what happens on Facebook.
I think it's because you can hide behind things. I think people either decide. It's almost like Facebook needs a button when you sign up on your profile. Are you going to be negative and post all your crap, or are you going to be posting good stuff?
And
you can decide.
I think for us, it's not about the highlight reel, because you hear a lot about that.
Yeah.
It's not.
Oh, I'm totally a highlight reel.
Well, brand and things like that. I mean, but it's not, for me, it's not necessarily the highlight reel, but it's the fun things that you share. But every now and then, like a few weeks ago, I lost my 17-year-old dog, and shared my devastation, and still share my devastation. That's not necessarily negative. I mean, it was negative, but it was not negative news. But
it wasn't negative news, but it was real.
I think you can be real without dwelling in
that's the thing, and it's
pit of despair.
Part of negativity, what we're talking about is not negative things happening to you.
No, I know.
It's you being negative and putting other people, that's a big thing, putting other people down and telling people how they should think and telling people why they're wrong. Mm-hmm. What you put out was a negative event, no one was coming back and telling you were wrong to feel the way you did.
No.
That would be the negativity I'm talking about. Like if they're like, oh, you should get over it, or you should do this, or you shouldn't feel that way. Feelings, I say this a lot when I'm working with people, feelings are non-negotiable. Feelings are non-negotiable. I may not agree with how you're feeling, but it's how you're feeling. You can't change that. So one of the things that we need to bear in mind as we're, putting news out or consuming news is people are entitled to their feelings. You may not agree with how they feel, but feelings are non-negotiable.
Yeah.
You may not have reacted that way, the same way they would have, but their feeling is non-negotiable. You've got to look at where they are, where they're coming from. But it's, the social media is tough. I feel like social media, I've seen some people do the 30-day experiments. I haven't really figured out how to do that without social for 30 days because I do use it so much for business. I would almost have to hire somebody for 30 days to manage the accounts so we don't, lose algorithm space. But it'd be interesting because I've seen people that took a hiatus from it and not posted and not consumed news. And I'd be curious to see kind of what effect that had in people's psyche. I stay pretty positive, my feed's positive, but for somebody that's really negative, I'd love to hear that. If any of you guys feel like and want to own up to the fact I tend to go to the negative, I'd love you to take a week long or 30 day long.
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to take a hiatus from social and see if it changed your outlook. Yeah. And not just social, because I feel like it's social media and I feel like it's television, commercials and news and things like that. I don't do news at all, so it,
I think in some of the groups, I've had to take a little bit of ownership, because I think in some of the groups that I'm in, most of them are fitness related, things like that. Where
I am not in the fitness groups.
Where I'm
in the anti-fitness
where
group.
Sometimes I think unintentionally hurt people's feelings is when I'm being protective, because they say something and it's like it seems negative, and then I'm like, why would you think that? But I've had to kind of step back and be like, you don't have to go on the offensive every single time somebody says something negative about something that I don't even earn money from. But I think you kind of get into this weird little, you can identify so strongly with something, and maybe this is what permeates the other sectors that we were talking about. You can identify so strongly with somebody that when someone disagrees with it, you almost become mama bear or papa bear about it, and you're like, how could you possibly? And I don't know,
you've got to know, and that's part of it, because I feel like the negativity is, you have to have your hills to die on, right?
Yeah.
Some of y'all got too many hills to die on. Some of y'all dying on a lot of hills. And I need y'all to dial it back, because, here's the thing. I
die on a mountain.
I can be nice, but my two things, mess with my livelihood or mess with my children, and I am a whole different person. And but those are my two hills to die on.
Yeah.
You can diss my clothes, diss my outfit, tell me my hair looks bad. I'm not going to like you, but it's not a hill to die on for me. I'm not going to go into battle. Mess with one of my children, you will be up for an epic battle. And it's happened. And I've lost friends over it. You know this, because it's happened a few years ago, and I lost the whole damn neighborhood over it. But it's the thing. That's my hill to die on. So I feel like as you're thinking about, as those of you guys listening are thinking about negativity and how it's playing into you and your actions and all this, you've got to really look at, is this worth it? For me, my business, my livelihood, and my children are.
Yeah.
Everything else, also, roll with the dice.
I feel like where some of us could begin is also identify when your hackles go up. For me, news can be on for 10 minutes. Doesn't matter what channel. Doesn't matter. I mean, it honestly does not matter the brand of news. If it's on TV and it's like,
girl, you're getting mad about all the things. You got too many hills. We need you to dial back the hills, Miss Shelby.
I just don't watch it. I just read it.
Well,
because then it's my own energy and then I'm identifying what my own is. But I think it's identifying what it is. If it's the news, if it's social media, if it's certain if it's people with certain viewpoints that just don't align with yours, you're not going to change their mind. Necessarily,
well, and that's part of it.
Find a different outlet for making change in that area, because it may not be the singular change that you're making.
And it's, we talked about media, but we talked about faith. And I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to say it twice for those of you in the back row. You are not going to change someone's mind on Facebook.
And you may not even change it in
person. Let me repeat. You will not change their mind on Facebook. You will not. No matter what you post, you will not change them. You can tell them they're stupid. You can tell them they're idiots. You can tell them whatever you want to tell them. That's perpetuating the negativity bias, because they're going to think what they think. Now, if you care deeply about this, I will see total strangers arguing on Facebook. I'm like, get a hobby. Go like knit a sweater. I don't even care what it is. But like sometimes but this is the negativity, because sometimes I'll read comments. I'm like, for the love of all things holy, first of all, you need Jesus. But second of all, somebody's got to get a hobby, because it just, y'all stop. Go do something productive. Not just argue with random strangers online. Yeah. And I've had people, I don't get into debates. It's funny. I've had people say negative things online about me. And what I thought was interesting is I won't get into debates with them.
Where are they at?
Yeah, I know, right? That's exactly what happens. When somebody says something negative, like occasionally, like if it's something that perhaps they misunderstood, I will clarify. I won't argue with them, but I'll clarify if I feel like they misunderstood something. But what's interesting is if I get attacked, I don't get attacked too often, but if I get attacked, other people chime in, which I think is really interesting, because I've posted things before that people didn't agree with. And it's like my friends and people that follow will kind of come to my defense. I'm like, look at my people stepping up. Yeah. Excuse me. But that's not negative. That's just them trying to, stand up and not allow negativity, I think is really what it is. Yeah. And we had that a podcast episode a few weeks ago. One of my friends actually had made a comment, and it was off topic, and it had to do with one of the controversial topics, particularly the vaccine, that I do not talk about purposefully. Yeah. And I politely just said, hey, that's not the topic of conversations, not something I choose to talk about on my page, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, your page, your rules, totally get it. So that's the thing, is that's where you can, because that conversation could have gone negative, because I know him very well and I respect his opinion, and I know the person he was commenting to, Laura, my co-host, and I respect her opinion, and they're not the same. And so I just wanted to kibosh the conversation, not because I don't think it's a valid conversation, just because I just know that they've both done their research and they both have the opinions they have for their valid reasons. And that's kind of where I feel like if everyone took that approach, then maybe the negativity and the name calling would stop a little bit.
I don't see why it has to devolve into name calling anyway.
Oh, it totally devolves in it, because people are idiots. I just called a name. Did you see this? Toddlers. Oh my God, it's so easy to do.
It's so easy. It is.
It is. Yeah. But I didn't name a particular person as. I mean, I can. Yeah. Particular people. But the main thing is just we've got to stop the spiral. Even if we could just slow down the spiral, because we are going down the toilet bowl right now.
We need a plunger.
We need to stop. We need to stop the spiral and just. Isn't it like at the other hemisphere?
That's so funny, because that's just what popped into my head too.
So like,
get on the other side of the equator and it goes the other way.
So south of the equator, the spin goes the other way. So we need to flip. We need to go south of the equator.
I know they're having the same kind of negativity.
They're trying to go north of the equator. Yeah. So. But it's all over the place. I don't think we're going to get rid of it. But my hope is that if you guys are listening, you can do one thing to stop the negativity bias. You can do one thing to not feed into it. Especially if it is hurting someone else. Yeah. Especially when it results to name calling or things like that.
Well, and there was the meme that I posted, children emulate what they hear from their parents, and it was like the mother's tongue, and it was coming out the child's mouth kind of a thing. And like, we got to be better for the kids that we're around too. Like, we've got to be better. So, because you can hear the little voices, and they're really just the grown-up voices, and it's just perpetuating perpetuating even more.
And it's so
I worry
easy
about that, and I don't have little
easy
people.
For kids. Well, it's so easy for kids to talk about other people and talk about negatives and not understand where people are coming from. Because I really feel like if you truly tried to understand where somebody's coming from, you probably wouldn't get as mad about some of the things. Like when I don't know how it was for you, but when I was growing up, I don't remember consuming a lot of news. I was outside. We had 3 channels.
Well, that's true. I mean,
and you had to get up to turn the channel.
And it was black and white consuming. TV, UHF, VHF. Yeah. But I don't remember. I remember kind of knowing what was going on in the world, but I also remember not knowing. I don't know that I was protected from it. It just wasn't. If my parents talked about it, they talked about it together in an adult conversation, and I think that sometimes those conversations are happening where little ears, and they don't have the ability to solve the problem, for one, and then they don't have the life experience to say what what is this or isn't this?
Yeah,
and then they
how
just
does it
become
affect?
little parrots.
Yeah.
But they're little mean.
They can be mean
Parrots.
little parrots, yeah. And there's, it's funny
know
because
how
we
y'all
had
do
this,
it.
I don't know how we do it.
Scary.
Barely getting by. We had this conversation during the election because my youngest is not old enough to vote.
Yeah.
And, we started talking and she was opinionated and saying, I'm like, how do you don't even, like, you literally have no idea. She would parrot whatever she would hear from like her dad or stepmom or,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. And I would ask a follow-up question, like, well, why do you think that? Well, Dad said, I'm like, all right, stop. So whether you agree with Dad or not, it's just, they were just parroting. So we need to understand that everything that we're putting out there, maybe that's a good point, is it's not just for our consumption, it's for all the little ears that are out there running around parroting everything they hear. We don't want to raise a society of people who are just mean and who are just talking about all negative stuff. This world is going to be scary 20 years from now.
Mean and angry. I see angry little kids, and I'm like,
they are angry little elves all over the place.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
Your bills are paid, and you're living at home for free. My kids have like 3 chores.
I would love a Freaky Friday moment. Like,
oh my gosh, wouldn't it? I know, that's such a good movie. But it's
go
true.
back.
If we can really look at, so maybe if you don't want to do the anti-negativity for yourself, do it for the next generation. So 20 years from now, when these angry little elves are putting us in the home, right? The angry little elves are going to be the ones driving us to the nursing home
it must
and
be
taking
South
care of
Pole
us.
Elf.
Taking care of us in the home. So we've got to start thinking we can't perpetuate this cycle of negativity.
Yeah.
We got to kibosh it.
Yeah.
I'm all for kiboshing it. We're still going to be a little negative. It's normal. It's natural.
Yeah.
Just don't live there.
Yeah, don't live there. Don't camp out.
Can't camp out there. So do not pitch your tent. All right, Miss Shelby, thank you for being with us again.
Thank you.
Those of you guys listening, Shelby will be back again for another episode. We're just tapping into her brain. But do everything you can to control the negativity. We know that negativity sells, but do your best to buy into some positive stuff too, so you can make a bigger difference and make sure all the little elves that are watching stay on the positive side too. So until next week, make it a good one, and we will see you soon.